Hello everyone, I'm Kurt from MatadorDarts.com and you are listening to the Talking Tungsten podcast, the only dedicated darts equipment podcast. In today's episode we're going to be talking about a couple of big launches that have come out as well as a few other bits and pieces as well. We're going to be talking about the Unicorn launch from a couple of weeks ago, and we're also going to be talking about the recent Red Dragon 2024 launch as well. Before we do get started, I do want to apologise for not having an episode out for a few weeks. I just wanted to have a little bit more content rather than just the Unicorn launch, so we've been waiting for that. And yeah, it's getting up to Dartsmas now, isn't it, really? We're heading into World Championship season. The draw has been done, the qualifiers are confirmed, and we are heading into what is going to be an absolutely stacked December of darts. Obviously starting off with the WDF World Championships, and then we're going to be moving into the PDC World Championships just the week after. So yeah, it's going to be a really interesting month of darts. Hopefully we'll be able to talk a bit about equipment when it comes to those kind of things. And yeah, what we're going to do is get into the podcast and dive straight into the Unicorn launch. So the Unicorn launch came out just a couple of weeks ago at the time of recording this, and I think it was actually quite well received, to be honest. Last year's launch was a little bit flat, I think. Unicorn have changed their strategy in the last couple of years. They're going to focus a bit more on the grassroots of darts. Obviously, they lost their sponsorship with the PDC in terms of being a board supplier, and that really probably has hampered them a little bit. So they've had to rethink their strategy, and they're now going to focus more on the grassroots market of darts. Which is also why we've seen them lose a few players as well over the last couple of years. They have obviously gained a player who became European champion last year, and that is Ross Smith. Saw a range of his darts released, including the darts that he uses as match darts, including the two-tones, which are a gold and black coated version of his barrel. They also brought out the natural version, which I really do like. I like that they've brought out the natural version and also the two-tone version. Me personally, I'm a fan of natural tungsten darts, so I'd probably rather go for that one. And it's also cheaper, and I'm a fan of cheaper darts as well. On top of that, they also released the 80% version of the Ross Smith darts as well. Very similar to his 90% version. Just a little bit of a takedown version, which is a really good option for players who are perhaps fans of Ross Smith or like his darts, but only can really get the 80% version. Going back to the two-tone range, they actually did release some other two-tone darts as well. They actually released some Gary Anderson duo darts, which are also the two-tone kind of colourway. They're blue at the rear, gold at the front, a natural tungsten band in the middle, and they're a combination of the best of Gary Anderson's darts that he has used throughout his career. I believe the rear grip is kind of like a micro grip, which references to his phase 4 darts, I believe it is, with the micro grip in the scallop. They have the sort of tapered style of his phase 6s without the bulbous section. They've also got a really nice sort of grippy front section. They also released some James Wade two-tones, which are a blue and black colourway. Again, a really nice looking dart, very similar to the James Wade natural darts, but again in blue and black. A really nice option, and again quite popular I think with some people on social media as well. There was also a range of other releases too. There was a couple of brass darts that were released. James Wade also got a black 80% version released. There was some new darts for Callan Rids, for Ted Everts, which are a phase 2 dart, but they're actually 80% tungsten, which I believe. His first generation were 90%, so I don't know if maybe he's changed dimensions, I'm not 100% sure. Callum Ridge's darts, also 80% tungsten. Not the actual darts that he's using, because he is actually using a version of the Heritage darts. But these are sort of his player darts that they are selling. Cameron Menzies' new darts, which actually look really nice. He started using them a few months ago. They have the sort of tapered nose, which is almost like a complete transition. There's no smooth section on the front of the nose, which I actually really do like. They also released a new version of the Protex, which is similar to the old Michael Smith darts, just a bit jazzed up. Henry Coates' new darts look really simple, but also really nice as well. They released a noir version of the Phase 6 Gary Andersons. They also released a Flare 80% range, an Amethyst range, which is a kind of like sandblasted range. There were 4 different versions of that as well. They also added 2 new darts to the Unicorn Heritage range, which is the Zippy, which is like a really short, really fat, almost dum-dum style dart. That was added to there. And also they've added the Phase 5 Phil Taylor dart into the Heritage range. It was previously released on its own, I believe, so the former Phil Taylor range was released. They just released them as like, Unicorn Evolution Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3, Phase 4, Phase 5. But they've actually added the Phase 5 to the Heritage range now as well. And it wouldn't surprise me to see them bring out other versions of Phil Taylor's old darts to that Heritage range too. Moving on to accessories, I think one of the biggest talking points of the launch was actually the brand new Unicorn Darts Contender board. So this board is actually a dartboard with bigger doubles and trebles than a standard board. I think probably double the size. Really interesting concept. Obviously, you have heard of trainer boards before, where you have the smaller trebles and doubles, but in this instance, they've brought them out with the bigger trebles and doubles. Really interesting for perhaps the beginner players, which I think is what this board is marketed to. Maybe the less serious players who have a bit more of an advantage in scoring, want to get the legs quicker, don't take darts too seriously. I actually think it's a really, really good idea. Some people weren't a fan, but I do enjoy the idea. If people want to play casually and want to play on a dart board with bigger trebles and doubles, just let them do it if they're not going to be taking the games too seriously. They also released a really nice looking range of shirts, along with some other items. But finally, I think another big talking point was the brand new Valute Points. These new points are in regulation with the 2024 PDC rules when it comes to point abrasiveness and the cuts on the front 15mm of the point. They brought out a new range of points with different grips on them as you get towards the end of the point, not so much the volute section, but where the nose meets the point, with varying grips. They also released some conical versions, so you can have that smooth transition on your tapered darts. They also released some butted versions, which have sort of like a slightly wider section. It's not so much conical and a smooth transition, but they have the wider bit of the point. And obviously they released them in 42mm as well, so that longer option for people who want to have a longer point than just 36mm, which I believe the Valute Points were exclusive to that length as well. They're also available in gold and noir coating as well. That was an overall summary of the Unicorn launch. You can find them with pretty much all good retailers. There's other accessories and stuff as well, so make sure you go and check them out too. Equipment malfunctions, and there's also a change in equipment for me personally. I know this isn't a podcast about me, but I think it's just something interesting to talk about, on the podcast that isn't just darts launches. So, starting off, the ADC and also the PDC German Super League, we saw some point snapping, and actually in both instances, the referee scored the point that was left in the board as the score. So I think someone hit a 140, and the point snapped in the board, and they counted it as 140 rather than 120. I think it was meant to be. So really interesting that they actually counted that. I didn't believe that if the dart snapped and fell out of the board that it actually counted, but in both instances they did. So maybe the rules have changed, or perhaps they both got them wrong on coincidence. I'm not 100% sure. But we are seeing this more commonly now. We've seen Callum Ridge snap a point, although he did pull his darts out of the board at a funny angle and quite aggressively, so that's understandable. But what we're seeing now with all these points with extra grooves in them near the top, people wanting more grip and experimenting with points, we're actually seeing more points snap than in previous years. So it's going to be something to watch out for. Whether it will happen in the professional game, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like professionals are a little bit more refined with their equipment, and if there's a chance of a point snapping because they put grooves in it, I feel like they wouldn't take that risk because it's so cutthroat at the top level of darts. But yeah, just an interesting point I thought I'd put across. Just some further information now on Loxley as well. They've actually released a couple of sets of darts, and they're also going to be releasing some sets of darts soon. They've also discontinued a set of darts as well, which I need to talk about. Lots has happened since the last podcast. So, starting off, Owen Bates' darts have been discontinued, and I believe they're probably not available anywhere now, because I think most people have bought them up. Obviously, due to a change in nickname, his darts have been discontinued, and they'll be making a Gen 2 version. Obviously, Owen Bates has secured his tour card and a place in the World Championships for next year, I do believe. Come back in a dramatic final challenge tour where he had to make the final to make the World Championships, and he did make the final, which he unfortunately lost, but he done the thing he needed to do. So a really dramatic last day on the challenge tour. So Owen Bates has had to change his nickname for the World Championship due to the inappropriate nature of it. And that also meant they're going to discontinue his darts, and we're going to be creating a Gen 2, which is a bit more, suited to Owen's new nickname, I suppose, which I believe he's still trying to come up with. So best of luck to Owen on that nickname change. He's also become the new Loxley UK brand ambassador, so really good news for Owen. Obviously, he's still establishing himself in a darts career, so best of luck to him, and obviously Matt from Loxley Darts. Hope those guys have a nice, successful relationship in that aspect. The two new darts that Loxley released were the Mustang. They retail for $71.95. Really nice bronze-coated dart, some really intricate machining in there. For me personally, one of the best looking barrels that Loxley have released. They're really sort of starting to up their design now and come up with some different bits and pieces, which I really do like. I think they started off quite simple, and they're slowly building their way up into that more sort of complex, more professional, established looking line of darts, and I think they're doing a really good job of that now. So yeah, shout out to Loxley for that. They also brought out a dart in the concept series. I believe there was only 100 sets made. There's currently 3 in stock on Premier Darts as I speak. So they are called the Boulder. They're sort of a front-weighted, bulbous at the front section dart, and they look like a boulder. They look like a stone. The texture of the dart is it's a smooth dart, no cuts or anything, but the texture of it looks like it's looks like a stone. Basically, that's the best way I can describe it. So really interesting concept art, really nice collector's piece, and that is actually available for only $48.95. So if you guys want to pick up a sort of really unique looking set of collector's darts, you can go and pick those up now. Final bit on Loxley Darts, Matt Birch on Twitter, who is the owner of Loxley Darts. If you look up on Twitter, Matt_B_Loxley, you will find Matt's account. He actually tweets some exclusive stuff on his account sometimes, so on the 28th of November, so yesterday at the time of recording this, he tweeted out a little picture of the packaging for Christian Kist's new darts, and also on top of one of the boxes was a set of Scott Baker 15-gram darts. Obviously, Scott Baker did sign with Loxley earlier this year, and I believe they will be releasing it in 15, 19, 23 grams. He did say that they are waiting on the 19 and 23 gram versions, as DHL are having problems delivering them. One thing I will say is Scott Baker's 15-gram Red Dragon darts were really sought after, so hopefully they'll be a popular dart for Loxley. Again, if you want to see that picture, head over to Matt_B_Loxley on Twitter and drop him a follow, because he does put out some interesting information about darts that are about to release or stuff that is coming out, before they tweet it from the Loxley account. So really worth following if you are a big fan of Loxley or just darts equipment in general. Moving on to the Red Dragon launch, which I don't know too much about, to be honest, because it came out today at the time of recording. I have seen a couple of bits and asked for some opinions, so we're just going to go through, have a look at the darts, and I'll tell you my thoughts, and then I'm going to go over some opinions. So we have a brand new Luke Humphreys barrel. They seem to be bringing one out every single launch now, and I don't blame them, because Luke Humphreys is a very good player and he's being very successful at the minute. They've released a Luke Humphreys TX3 darts. Looks like a version of his dart with more grip, more rings across the barrel. They've released a gold and a natural version. Both have blue paint. Not a fan of the gold and blue paint, to be honest. Similar to the Going Price Avalanche darts. Not really a fan of that colourway. They've released some Peter Wright Diamond Fusion darts, which are the Element grip with a rainbow style coating, and also the Tungsten has a rainbow style coating as well. They've released the Go & Price Iceman Midnight Edition 90%, which is a Go & Price endorsed dart. Looks like it's got a bit of a sort of ring grip going up the barrel with the signature Go & Price Iceman cuts in there as well down the middle. We have the Javelin Speedline, which is the Red Dragon Javelin that we all know and love. And it's got a bit of a vertical cut sort of ring on them. Looks like it probably gives it a little bit more grip, which is interesting. I'm not sure how popular they will be. A really nice looking range of darts in the Red Dragon Icon darts. These 85% tungsten. They're available in 4 different styles, so they have a parallel barrel, a couple of bomb-shaped options, and then also a sort of tapered version that goes from thinner at the front to wider at the back, almost kind of like a stiletto style, but a little bit more sort of rounded and a bit more tapered. These darts actually feature a atomized grip, which we haven't really seen from Red Dragon for a little while, so nice of them to bring that back. That was sort of their big thing quite a few years ago, the atomized grip, and they were putting it on pretty much every single player dart that they were releasing, so it's really nice to actually see that make a bit of a comeback. They've released some brand new Marlins. These are called the Venom Edition. They have a bit of red and black coating, some really intricate cuts on there, as well as the Red Dragon rifle, which also has some really interesting cuts around sort of spiraling the barrel. Really interesting. I'm not sure how much grip they will give or how well balanced they are. That remains to be seen. It's a bit of a weird looking barrel, to be honest. I'm not sure if I'm a fan of those. Lots of other darts released as well. I'm not going to go through all of them. They've released 3 new sort of player darts as well. They've released the Red Dragon Ryan Meikle darts. These are sort of a slightly altered version of the Red Dragon Amberjacks, which Ryan used to use. Got blue and white paint on them, which are sort of Ryan's colours after Ipswich Town, I believe, which is my football team as well. So Johnny Clayton's got some new 2.0 edition of his darts. I'm not 100% sure what the changes are. I think there's a little bit more of a taper on the nose section. And we've also got a Jan van Veen axis grip, so similar to his original barrels, but with the sort of vertical milling that we see on some of the other Red Dragon range as well. The other talking point from this launch is, for me anyway, the Red Dragon air wing flight. So these are apparently a moulded flight. I can't quite see how they work though. I don't know if they're just like a thicker, moulded flight. They seem like they're sort of similar to an L style in a sense, but without the sort of rings on them. I think they just slot straight into a normal nylon stem. And they come at a 90-degree angle. I believe they're pretty much made for the Nitrotech stems. At least that's the example I've seen. Really interesting concept. They've released them in a couple of different shapes. They've got standard, and they've also got like a sort of in-between of a sort of small standard. I think it's called the V standard, I think Red Dragon call it. So really interesting to see how they fly. I might have to pick up a set when they do release. They're not actually available at the minute. But yeah, look really, really interesting. Maybe an alternative to the sort of thicker moulded flights which are available on the market currently. On the Red Dragon launch, I actually asked for people's opinions on Twitter, and I got some replies. Generally, to be honest, not great. I don't think people are really too pleased with this launch, especially as it's Red Dragon's main launch for 2024. So yeah, we're going to go over some of the comments that I received on Twitter about the launch. So Connor Ellis says that the new Peter Wright darts look amazing, but they're 86 quid. Generally for a Peter Wright dart, that's probably about a fair price, to be honest, that we've seen compared to others. But yeah, £86 for a set of darts is pretty expensive. Attitude Darts says they're loving the range, particularly the reimagined javelins. I do believe they've used the javelins in the past. The Panteras look quality. The snakebite darts are very shiny, look good, but would be curious about how long the diamond coating actually lasts. They're only wishing there was a few more gold darts. Chris Bear says the Marlin Venom Vengeance Red and Astreus Parallel. They're what he likes, I believe. The rifle looked wild, and it'd be interesting to know how the grip feels on that. Tim Zippy Saturn says that lots and lots of rehashed stuff, very few new or actually desirable and usable ideas. Red Dragon are fast becoming the novelty collected wing of Nodor. That is a very interesting point from Tim there. Daniel Palmer says it's the worst launch of the year. Brian Lewis says he's wanted a shorter version of the Peter Wrights, which supposedly these new darts are, but he's not paying £86. He's a very big fan of the atomised range though. Matt McCallion said it's not been a great launch, to be honest. And Triss at 180 Nomad says that Icon 1.3 and the new Javelins are the ones that he likes. Be interested in trying their new moulded flights too, which is what I said as well. Something a little bit different compared to other brands. So that's the one thing I think I'm really, really looking to, try out of the launch. So yeah, that is a little summary of the Red Dragon launch. There is more stuff available. Once again, if you go and check them out on the Red Dragon website or with retailers, because Red Dragon are now available in shops as well, so that's a pretty interesting move from Red Dragon. If you guys are going to pick up anything from these new launches, do let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, finally moving on, we're just going to talk about, my, personal darts equipment change. Not often I talk about myself on this podcast, but yeah, I've actually changed darts. So for quite a few years now, I've been using 48mm parallel straight barrel, 95% tungsten darts. I used the Red Dragon Dragonfly 3s to start with in 22 grams. I then had some customs made which were of similar dimensions. The smooth section was brought slightly further forwards to give me a slightly further forward centre of balance. And then I was moved on to the Mission Sean McDonald darts, and then sort of switched between them and my customs for a little bit. But then what's happened sort of midway through this year is I've actually started experiencing some pain in my elbow when throwing, and I just couldn't get my darts to the board in the way I wanted to. I was having a lot of darts drop, near the bullseye, aiming for the treble 20. And, you should probably rest elbow injuries, but unfortunately I had a few commitments in terms of, my darts team that I captain on a Friday, and I don't want to see them go short. And also, tournaments and stuff, which I do like to play, and I do like to go out and socialise with the people in the darts community from, around this area, because I'm good friends with people in darts, and I like to get out and play darts and talk about darts and stuff to people. So I still wanted to travel to these tournaments and, play in them. And because of this, I needed to find a set of darts which, suited my elbow issues a little bit better, probably made it a bit easier for me to throw. Not because I was getting pain all of the time, but because my technique with my straight barrel darts had to be a lot firmer, which then caused elbow pain post-games. So I've actually switched to a 24-gram bomb-shaped dart. I actually originally tested out some darts clearance 24-gram bomb shapes, which have actually been re-released today as I'm talking. They've also been released in a 22-gram version, and I think they're out in 26 as well. So a really solid dart. I think they're about 20 quid, if not under that. Really worth looking into, to be honest. They're a really nice set of darts for people who like bomb-shaped darts. And yeah, I used them in a league game on a Friday night in a best of 5. Lost 3-1, but I actually played quite well. Pretty consistent with the scoring, which I haven't been with my parallel darts. So I thought, oh, that's something, we'll stick with these. I actually then tested out some Quantum Kaiser or Quasar darts, which I actually had received from Dan at Quantum Darts after helping him out with some stuff. So thanks to Dan for those. And I actually picked up a spare set of those, and I'm now using them as my match darts. I haven't performed any worse with them compared to my straight barrel darts, so perhaps there's something in them, and I maybe should have switched them before I had my elbow injury. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, they go really nicely for me. They just go through the air so much easier. They sit up nicely, even with longer points. They just seem to glide through the air without having any real sort of unnatural sort of twisting and turning in the air. So yeah, it's been a really positive change for me personally. Unfortunately, my elbow injury has got slightly worse, so I am taking a bit of a break from darts. But when I do come back, I will be still continuing to use my bomb-shaped darts and seeing if they are of benefit to me. I feel like I'm pretty comfortable using most sets of darts. I'm pretty adaptable. But I think these bomb shapes really are the way forwards for me, so I'm going to be sticking with those for the foreseeable future. And yeah, guys, that's it for this episode. It's been a bit of a bumper episode, lots to catch up on over the last couple of weeks. Yeah, if there's anything you want me to talk about in the next episode, do let me know in the comments down below. As I said before, if you picked up any of the darts that I've talked about in this episode, again, let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to leave a like on it. It does push it out to more people who aren't subscribed to my channel. If you aren't subscribed or following on Spotify, make sure you do that as well, and then you'll be notified when I do upload new podcasts and also episodes. Hopefully soon I'm going to be having more podcasts before taking a little break, probably after the World Championships, to get set up for, video podcasts, where I'm going to be incorporating a few different bits and pieces into the episodes as well. So I'll have an actual video podcast with really informative, bits on the screen that are worth, watching. So hopefully that is of interest to you guys. And yeah, guys, I think that is pretty much it for this episode. Sorry it's been a bit waffly, but that's the case when a lot of stuff to talk about. If there's anything I missed in this episode as well, let me know in the comments down below as well. Obviously can't cover absolutely everything. And yeah, guys, that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.